WWE Hall of Famer Edge has reportedly been removed from WWE's internal roster, with his contract with the company set to expire on September 30, just one day before the AEW WrestleDream pay-per-view, with rumors continuing to link the Rated R superstar to All Elite Wrestling. Details on that, plus we may now finally have a confirmed attendance number, or at least a turnstile number, for AEW AllIn after another update from a local London council. Shawn Michaels says he would love to see CM Punk in NXT. He's also commented about the releases of Mustafa Ali and Dana Brooke, despite the fact they were featured into current NXT creative plans. Shawn Michaels has also spoken about Jade Cargill joining WWE and Gable Stevenson's NXT future as well. Bryan Danielson is reportedly fully cleared ahead of his WrestleDream dream match against Zack Sabre Jr. on Sunday in his hometown of Seattle, Washington. NXT Deadline has a location and date confirmed, and WWE announces a new broadcast deal in Japan. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about the Rated R superstar himself, Edge, because this weekend could be a big weekend in the pro wrestling future of the WWE Hall of Famer. Edge's contract with WWE is set to expire at the end of this month, and according to PW Insider, the Rated R superstar has now been removed from the miscellaneous section of WWE's internal roster, meaning he is no longer listed anywhere on WWE's promotion in-house performers list. This is very significant, of course, because the last report suggested he had been removed from the active internal roster and placed into this miscellaneous list with the likes of other miscellaneous talent, Big E, The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Braun Strowman, and others. As of right now, at the time of recording this video, Edge is still currently listed on WWE's .com roster page. PW Insider, as I mentioned, reported similar information earlier this month. However, hours later, Edge was allegedly put back on WWE's internal roster under that miscellaneous section, which is used for injured talent or performers who aren't part of the full-time roster or assigned to a brand or just aren't actively wrestling at the moment but still under contract to WWE. Now, it's unclear where Edge's future lies at this present time. His most recent match with WWE took place on the August 18 episode of Friday Night SmackDown, where he defeated Sheamus in front of his hometown crowd in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. That show also celebrated Edge's 25-year anniversary with WWE. Prior to that bout with Sheamus, the WWE Hall of Famer noted that it was the last match penciled in on his existing WWE contract. Now, there has been speculation that Edge may retire again or even join WWE's rival AEW, reuniting with his longtime tag team partner and best friend Christian Cage. However, in a social media update posted after his match with Sheamus, Edge said that he had a WWE contract extension, quote, sitting in his inbox, but he wasn't sure what he wanted to do next in his career. Edge pointed out that he was forced to retire due to injury last time, but now the ball is in his court and it's much more difficult. Now, as I mentioned, his contract is reportedly up on Saturday, that being September 30. That is 24 hours prior to AEW's WrestleDream pay-per-view. Therefore, he would be free to sign with AEW and appear on Sunday at WrestleDream. As of right now, that is a possibility. Now, according to Wrestling Observer Radio today, Dave Meltzer has suggested that people within WWE, at least of just a few weeks ago, believed that Edge was indeed headed to All Elite Wrestling. He said, quote, "I don't know that he's going there, AEW or not. I just know that people in WWE, at least as of a few weeks ago, believed he was going to AEW." So what are your thoughts on the latest developments when it comes to Edge? What do you think his decision is going to be? His contract is set to expire on Saturday. Do you think he eventually somehow re-signs with WWE? Do you think he goes to AEW, or do you think he retires? Let me know your thoughts about that. Of course, if we get any more information about Edge's future, we'll let you know in future videos. Now, this has been a recurring story. We spoke about this yesterday, but finally, it looks like we have a confirmed number from a local council in London when it comes to the turnstile number for AEW AllIn at London's Wembley Stadium. Now, we brought you the story yesterday of an email that was circulating around from Chris White, who works for the local council, looks for Brent Council in London, and he had put out previously that 85,528 was the attendance number for AEW AllIn. Now, that was quite significantly different to the other numbers that had gone around. The previous turnstile count from a Freedom of Information Request Act suggested that actually the turnstile count for AEW AllIn was 72,265. Now, that doesn't suggest everyone that's actually in the stadium for that evening. That's just the people that had ticket scans or went through the turnstiles. It could be a little bit more when it comes to suites, things of that nature, but still, nevertheless, it was down and significantly under AEW's announced world record of a paid attended pro wrestling event of 81,000. So as I mentioned, it was a lot of confusion with this email going around yesterday, and now it has been confirmed that the number that was given yesterday, that 85,000 number, may have been given in error. Brandon Thurston shared this on social media, saying that he wrote to the aforementioned Chris White, who responded to him by saying the following: Brandon, apologies, yes, we've confirmed a revised figure for the turnstile entries of 72,265. Sorry for any confusion. So it would appear that the original number, that 72,000 number, indeed is the accurate turnstile number. Now, to kind of maybe hopefully nip this one in the bud, although I suppose it never really will be fully nipped in the bud, there's quite a good terminology explainer by Brandon Thurston by WrestleNomics. And obviously, first, for any live event, there's no such straightforward measurement. We can strictly merely call attendance. There have been quite a few different terminologies and different terms used when it comes to AEW AllIn. So for tickets distributed, the tickets distributed number is 85,258. Probably the local government gave this number that Brandon Thurston believes is the tickets distributed. Now, the tickets sold, reportedly from AEW, was 81,035. Again, that number came from AEW. The tickets used, the turnstile count, is 72,265 per the local government. So just to define these terms, and again, these definitions come from Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics, the tickets distributed is the number of tickets sold plus tickets given away for free. Put another way, paid plus comps. Brandon Thurston says he believes AllIn's tickets distributed count was probably 85,528 as disclosed recently. That would be a little higher, plausibly so, than the WrestleTix estimate of tickets distributed of 83,131. Now, tickets sold, aka paid attendance, the number of tickets actually sold, to be pedantic, paid attendance is a bit misleading. One could interpret paid attendance as the number of tickets that were sold that were also used. That's almost certainly not what AEW meant by paid attendance of 81,035. AEW is claiming they sold 81,035 tickets, regardless of whether they were ultimately used for admission. Clearly, many of those were not used. Now, the tickets used, aka the turnstile count, which has got a lot of people talking, also known as the drop count, also known as a scan count, that's the number of tickets that were actually recorded as used for admission. Now, Brandon Thurston says not to get too hung up on turnstile here, as it's really kind of old school actually. Many venues don't really actually have literal turnstiles anymore. Many tickets, especially comps, never get used. Was your ticket scanned when you entered? You went through the turnstile. Also, a ticket that never got sold on the secondary market would never get used as well. So again, they could technically be bought, but also never used because they were never sold on the second market, if indeed that makes sense. So what are your thoughts on those numbers? Do you really even care at this point about these numbers? Let me know your thoughts about it, as always, in the comments section below. Now, Shawn Michaels has been talking quite a bit ahead of NXT No Mercy this coming weekend, and it wouldn't be a media call without somebody asking about CM Punk in AEW or WWE now, particularly that he's been fired from All Elite Wrestling. And ahead of this Saturday night's WWE No Mercy Premium Live event, Senior Vice President of Talent Development Creative Shawn Michaels took part in a media call. On the call, Nick Houseman of House of Wrestling asked HBK about CM Punk, who was terminated by AEW earlier this month. Houseman said he wanted to know if Michaels would welcome the former AEW and WWE World Champion CM Punk into the NXT brand, and if he thought WWE would welcome him back into the fold in general. Here's what Shawn Michaels had to say. Quite interesting quotes, actually. He said, quote, "I always enjoy working with Phil. Again, I didn't get to do it much, but I don't know. I'll say this, I understood him. I think there were, whether you want to say there were similarities in us, look, I can't lie. He, once again, we were at TV, and he once pulled out of his wallet right there on the spot a little autograph that I guess I had apparently signed for him in a hotel that he still had. So I've always liked him." He then continued by saying, quote, "And I understand he's a different kind of cat and can sometimes be challenging to get along with people, but again, that's probably why I like him, because I suffer from the same thing. So, but still, look, obviously, that's for people to decide. Higher up on the food chain than I am, he's a guy that does numbers and makes money. I think that would be a risk-reward ratio that I'm sure from a company standpoint they'd have to consider. But when it comes to, would we take him in NXT and have him on our television? Are you kidding me? Of course I would. I just don't think anybody would let me. Who doesn't take that kind of star power?" So obviously it's very hypothetical. If CM Punk was to come back to WWE, he wouldn't be going to NXT. But what are your thoughts about Shawn Michaels' comments about CM Punk and an overall possible return to WWE, with him saying, look, it's a risk versus reward ratio that someone higher than him has to decide? And do you think that those in WWE are having those conversations right now about what's the risk, what's the reward, and how can we possibly manage Phil Brooks if indeed he were to come back to WWE? Let me know your thoughts about that. Now, Shawn Michaels was also asked about releases because they have impacted the NXT brand as well quite significantly, particularly when it comes to Mustafa Ali and Dana Brooke. Let's start off talking about Mustafa Ali. Of course, on September 21st, WWE released a handful of wrestling talent, including those on the main roster, NXT, and the NIL deals as well. Those that hadn't even appeared on WWE television at all. Now, one of the most surprising names released was Mustafa Ali, who was set to challenge Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship at the No Mercy event this coming weekend. NXT had to pivot on Tuesday's episode, putting together a four-way bout to crown a new contender for the title. Trick Williams defeated Axiom, Dragon Lee, and Tyler Bate to earn a shot at Mysterio and the NXT North American Championship at No Mercy this weekend. Speaking on the NXT No Mercy media call, Shawn Michaels was asked about Ali's release and NXT having to change plans this week. Here's what he said about it. He said, quote, "I found out right before he did. I will say this, I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't take us by surprise. That's one thing I'm learning here, is that main roster and NXT are totally separate rosters. I think the world of Mustafa, had a great working relationship with him in the time that he was here. I will miss him. That's what we do here in NXT. We adjust. The fire drill is something that is a regular thing here in the WWE and certainly here at NXT. I feel we made a great pivot. We adjusted, and he's unbelievably creative and talented young man, and no doubt his future looks incredibly bright and he'll be successful. I'm going to miss him, and I enjoyed working with him for the time that I did have him here. Now Trick Williams is the beneficiary of that, and he has the biggest match of his life at NXT No Mercy." And when it comes to these releases as well, we've got a bit of an update when it comes to the backstage reaction, and maybe more importantly, the frustration that Shawn Michaels was hinting at there on the media call when it comes to the real unknown element of Mustafa Ali getting released and him not really knowing anything about it. Now, the news on the WWE releases doesn't stop coming in. Needless to say, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, there were several people unhappy with Mustafa Ali's release from WWE. Ali had effectively been moved to NXT, where he was gaining steam on the brand. Sources that Fightful spoke to were frustrated with the lack of communication between WWE and NXT. Specifically, they were told that some of the frustration emanated from the fact that there's been a renewed effort to stack NXT with familiar faces and names. In addition to losing one of those names, a planned match with two main roster talent, Mustafa Ali and Dominic Mysterio, is now off the table, therefore, hypothetically, a bit less of a draw for this coming weekend. Those that Fightful heard from said there was no indication as of Tuesday that Mustafa Ali was going to be cut, and even no indication cuts were even going to happen to anyone with a main roster contract. For those noting that Mustafa Ali asked for his release, he did, though that was over 2 years ago, so it wasn't a case of Ali asking for his release recently and getting it. That release request came a long time ago. Now, as I mentioned, Shawn Michaels spoke on Ali on NXT's media call and admitted that it did change plans on the brand and that he liked Mustafa and enjoyed working with him. Now, they also asked Michaels on the call about other releases that had affected NXT's immediate plans, and he said Dana Brooke. Dana had often pushed to be more active in the ring, and Fightful were told, separate of Michaels' comments, that NXT were happy to have her there and she was well liked by those on the roster and willing to help. So NXT really didn't know that much about it, about the releases, and because of that they had to pivot, which has led to some frustration. Now, Shawn Michaels also spoke on one of the biggest stories this week, and that is Jade Cargill signing for WWE. On September 26, WWE officially announced the signing of Jade Cargill to a multi-year contract with the company. Cargill joins WWE after a successful run in AEW that included a 50-match undefeated streak and becoming the first ever AEW TBS champion. When asked about his thoughts on her signing, Shawn Michaels said the following, saying, quote, "Huge, obviously. I think you can tell by this week just the enormity of her signing. I got to meet with her briefly. Unbelievably wonderful young lady, very pleasant young lady. A few days here training, a hard worker. I'll tell you what, I certainly understand the buzz. She's an awesome specimen, a striking young lady, and such a presence about her. I feel like that is something. She is a young lady tailor-made for the WWE, and I think she has an incredibly bright future here, whoever gets her. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wouldn't love to have her here in NXT, but wherever she ends up, I have no doubt she's going to have great success. If she's here with us, it's going to be like it always is. We're going to utilize her to the best of our ability, try and make it an enjoyable experience for her. She's looking at what I think is going to be a fantastic experience here in WWE. Now, when it comes to Cargill signing this week, she's done already pretty insane social media numbers, it must be said. WWE, as I mentioned, officially announced the signing of Jade Cargill this week, and she's already returned some big numbers for the company. The post announcing Jade's signing with the company has now reached over 14 million views, making it the company's second highest viewed social media post relating to a WWE talent in 2023. The only post above Jade's announcement was the clip of Jimmy Uso turning on Jey Uso at SummerSlam, which sits at 29.9 million views. So again, pretty high stuff. Just for reference of some other top videos this year, it includes Jimmy Uso superkicking Roman Reigns at Night of Champion. That's at 12.5 million. Triple H will address the WWE Universe on SmackDown after WrestleMania 39. That's 10.2 million. Carlito's surprise appearance at Backlash. That's 10 million. The Rock's return on SmackDown this month was 9 million. So the fact that once again Jade Cargill has 40 million views is indeed very, very significant and goes to show the company, well, certainly the people that are interested in her on social media already this week. Now, Shawn Michaels has also spoken about the future of Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevon in NXT, because right now it's kind of quite murky waters when it comes to him. Now, Shawn Michaels has provided an update on Gable Stevon. Stevon has not been seen on NXT television since the Great American Bash premium live event back in July, where his debut match against Baron Corbin went to a double countout. Stevon did return to the ring on September 8, although it was at an untelevised live event. Stevon has since competed at 3 other untelevised live events as well. Obviously, Dave Meltzer did previously state that Stevon was off the WWE roster, and then Stevon competed at a live event just a few days later, making that report seem pretty much very, very unlikely. On the NXT No Mercy media call, Shawn Michaels was asked to provide an update on Gable Stevon and his status with NXT, and HBK said the following, quote, "We certainly have every intention of using Gable. For me, honestly, Gable obviously has a number of outside commitments, and it's just me trying to figure out what's the best way that I could work with that with him. I obviously don't want to get in the way of any of his personal goals. That's obviously what we're doing now. Just trying to find out. We've had him on live events, which have been fantastic down here in South Florida and Central Florida. Just making sure that I know his schedule and get the best organized we can, and then just sit with him and figure out how we want to map things out going into the future. Everything has been fantastic. He just sometimes is a pretty busy young man, and I want to do everything I can to be conscious of that and work with him the best way possible going forward." So he certainly says that they do have plans to utilize Gable Stevon moving forward, so it's not as if he's done with WWE for now. Of course, this Sunday it's WrestleDream for AEW, and Bryan Danielson's going to be in a dream match to some, facing off against New Japan Pro Wrestling's Zack Sabre Jr. And a recent interview with Bryan Danielson has provided an injury update ahead of WrestleDream on October 1st. On September 9, Zack Sabre Jr. challenged Danielson to a match at AEW WrestleDream, with the New Japan star making it clear what he thinks of Danielson's physical condition. Of course, Danielson suffered a forearm fracture at the AEW and New Japan Forbidden Door pay-per-view in his match, the main event match, against Kazuchika Okada on June 25th. He would then face Ricky Starks at All Out on September 3rd, but would reveal that Starks really carried him through the match and that it actually had a lot of smoke and mirrors about it. Recently, the feud between the pair would see Starks and Danielson in a Texas Death match on AEW Collision. In an interview with the New York Post, Danielson's current medical status for AEW WrestleDream would be revealed, with the author author of the article, writing, quote, "The restrictions Danielson worked under during those shows are off for Sunday as he is, quote, fully cleared, but he knows he still needs to be careful as he continues to rehab." Danielson is quoted as saying, quote, "Our doctors would still not like me to do certain things, but from like 2 weeks ago, when I had the tag match, the strength in my hand is coming back way faster than they thought it would. The mobility and all that stuff. I still have to be cautious probably for the next year or so. They put a steel rod in my arm. One of the things they said is that it actually makes it more likely to break, not where it broke before, but where the end of the rod is. It's like fulcrum for the bone to bend against. So obviously, basically saying he needs to be careful, but as of right now, he's fully cleared. I don't know if that suggests that he was partially cleared, because I don't really know what that means for his other matches, but he has suggested that every match he's kind of been in recently have had stipulations on it, and the reason is because he's not allowed to do certain things in the ring right now. NXT Deadline is next, a premium live event for NXT after No Mercy this coming weekend. WWE has announced the second annual NXT Deadline will take place on December 9 at the Total Mortgage Arena in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Last year's event, the first of its name, saw the debut of the NXT Iron Survivor Challenge matches, with Grayson Waller and Roxanne Perez coming out on top in the inaugural men and women's bouts. Now, we don't know if they're going to return this time around, but nevertheless, we know the date and the location as well for the event. Finally, WWE has announced another broadcast deal this week, this time for Japan, and it's actually quite interesting when you think about talent involved. WWE has announced today that the company has entered into a new broadcasting rights agreement with ABEMA, a free ad-supported streaming platform in Japan. The agreement will see both Raw and SmackDown broadcast for free in the country, with Japanese commentary available on the shows for the first time. Additionally, WWE PLEs will be available to watch on the platform, and NXT will become available to watch on demand as part of the agreement. The company revealed that the deal will begin starting with Raw next week. Former WWE Cruiserweight Champion Akira Tozawa celebrated the news on social media, letting fans know in Japanese that ABEMA will be the place to watch WWE programming moving forward. The Japanese broadcast of Raw and SmackDown will be available one day after the US broadcast, complete with Japanese commentary. This means Raw will be made available at 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights, while SmackDown goes up at 8 p.m. on Saturdays. Previously, WWE received a distribution deal in Japan from a company called J Sports. However, that deal ended in early 2022 after more than 20 years as partners. Japanese fans were required to pay for a subscription to gain access to all WWE programming under the deal with J Sports, while it seems everything will be made available at no cost when watching ABEMA moving forward. Along with North America and the United Kingdom, Japan is a hotbed for professional wrestling, home to promotions such as New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, DDT, Pro Wrestling Noah, Dragon Gate, and much more. While there were previously rumors that WWE had an interest in starting an NXT branch in Japan, there hasn't and doesn't seem to be any significant movement on that front in the last several years, though things could always change, and maybe this is the case of WWE offering free content in a way to get a bigger footprint in Japan before maybe expanding NXT into that region. But there you go, guys. This is the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.